I should have deleted the message. That's what I kept thinking, just staring at it like a fool. But I didn't. I read it again instead, word for word, like it meant something more than it should. Hey, this is weird, but I saw your name and had to reach out. Hope that's okay. It was signed Ana Mendez. That name pulled me back 30 years like it was nothing. High school. Junior year. She was the girl with the sketchpad in the back of the room, always drawing something. I was the quiet one in a Metallica hoodie, mostly invisible. I used to time my trips to the library just to walk past her locker. Never said a damn word back then. And now, all these years later, she was in my inbox. Just like that. I stared at the message for probably 10 minutes before I replied. Just said, hey, yeah, wow. Long time. That kicked it off. We started emailing, then texting, then calling. The calls came late at night when the house was quiet and my wife was asleep next to me. My wife, Sarah, never asked. She never looked at my phone. Maybe she didn't want to know. Or maybe she just assumed I didn't have it in me to do something stupid. She wouldn't have been wrong. Until Anna. I'm 45. Been married for 20 years. 2 kids. Marcus is 18, off to college next year. Lily's 15, mostly keeps to herself, always has her headphones in. We live in a cul-de-sac outside Kansas City. I work in freight management. Sarah's a nurse. Nothing dramatic. We paid our bills. Took a vacation every 2 years. Life was fine. But fine can be a long, slow ache if you let it. Anna told me she lived in Wichita now. No kids. Divorced. Worked as a tattoo artist, of all things. Said she got tired of coloring inside the lines. That made me laugh more than it should have. One night, she asked, "You ever think about the old days? What might have been?" I didn't answer. She said, "I used to draw you sometimes, you know, back then. You probably never noticed." I didn't. But the thought of her doing that messed me up more than I expected. We talked for 3 months. Just talking. But it changed something. I was checking my phone every hour. Smiling like a teenager when she sent me a dumb meme. Lying awake wondering what it would have been like to kiss her under the bleachers instead of just walking past her. Then one day she said, "We should meet. For real." And I said yes. Just like that. Even though I knew better. Even though it felt like standing on the edge of a cliff with no rail. I still said yes. I told Sarah I had to drive to Topeka for a client meeting. Left early on a Saturday. The kids were still asleep. Sarah handed me a travel mug and said, "Be safe." I said, "Always." Then I drove 2 hours to a diner on the edge of Wichita. I saw Anna through the window before I walked in. She hadn't seen me yet. She was stirring her coffee, her hair pulled back in a messy bun. She looked older, obviously. We both did, but still had that same half-lost, half-mischievous look in her eyes. I opened the door and she looked up, smiled. "Hey," she said. That was it. Just hey. But it knocked the wind out of me. I sat down across from her, and for a second we just looked at each other. No words. Then she reached across the table, touched my hand, and something in me cracked open. Just a little, but enough. The first thing I remember thinking was how easy it felt. Sitting there with her like we'd done it 100 times before. Like the years hadn't happened. Like we were just picking up from some conversation we forgot to finish in 1994. Anna talked first. She said, "You still drink coffee black?" I nodded. "Some habits don't change." She smiled and said, "Some do." We talked for 2 hours. Maybe 3. I lost track. She told me about her shop, about her dog, about how her ex moved to Oregon with someone 20 years younger and how she didn't even get mad. Just said, "Have a good life." And meant it. I told her about work, about Marcus and Lily, about how Sarah and I had settled into a routine that felt more like a contract than a marriage. I didn't say that last part out loud. Didn't have to. Anna heard it anyway. She said, "You sound tired." I didn't answer. She said, "I mean your voice. You sound like someone who's been holding his breath for 20 years. I laughed. Kind of. I don't even notice anymore. After lunch, we walked a bit. Just around the block. She stopped at a record store window and pointed at an old Springsteen album. You still listen to this stuff? She asked. Sometimes. She looked at me and said, I remember you wore that tore shirt until it basically disintegrated. That stopped me. Nobody remembers those things. Not even Sarah. Especially not Sarah. We stood there a while, not saying much. Then she asked, what happens now? I didn't know. I said, I should head back soon. She nodded. Of course. But she didn't move. Neither did I. That silence, the kind that feels loaded, like the air gets heavier just before something happens. It stretched out between us. Then she stepped in closer, and I swear the world narrowed down to just her eyes. Brown, soft, tired but kind. And I felt that gravity again. The kind you don't fight. She didn't kiss me. She didn't have to. The space between us did all the talking. When I finally pulled away and said I had to go, she touched my arm and said, I'm glad you came. Driving home, I didn't turn on the radio. I didn't think about the lie I told Sarah, or the texts I hadn't answered, or the leftover chicken she probably had waiting in the fridge. I thought about Anna's hand on my arm, the way she said tired, the way she said breathe. When I walked into the house, Lily was at the table with her laptop. Marcus was gone, probably with friends. Sarah looked up from the sink and said, How was the meeting? I said, It was fine. There it was again. That word. Fine. And just like that, I hated it. Again. That night, I lay in bed next to Sarah, staring at the ceiling, feeling the slow rhythm of her breathing. She was already asleep, and all I could think was, what the hell am I doing? But I didn't stop, because part of me had already left, even if my body hadn't moved an inch. The next morning, I didn't text Anna. Not because I didn't want to, I just didn't know what to say. I woke up next to Sarah like nothing had changed, made coffee, packed Lily's lunch, and answered a few work emails. Same routine, same rhythm. But it all felt off, like I was walking around in someone else's life. By noon, Anna messaged, Hey, hope you made it home okay. I stared at it for a while before typing back, Yeah, thanks again for yesterday. She sent a smile emoji. That was it. But from that point on, it was different. Not just messages now. Not just memories. Something had been set in motion, and I couldn't stop it. Or maybe I didn't want to. We started texting every day. Nothing heavy at first, songs, photos, old jokes from high school. She sent me a picture of her latest tattoo project. A phoenix wrapped around someone's forearm. Said it reminded her of starting over. I didn't reply to that one right away. At home, Sarah noticed. You're always on your phone lately, she said one night while folding laundry. I shrugged. Just work stuff. She didn't push. Just nodded. Went back to folding. I told myself I wasn't doing anything wrong. Not yet. I wasn't sleeping with Anna. I wasn't even seeing her. Just talking. Laughing. Letting myself be seen again. Felt like breathing fresh air after years in a closed room. One night, after the kids went to bed, I sat out on the back porch and called her. Hey, she said, soft and surprised. I just needed to hear your voice, I said. There was a pause. Then, yeah, me too. We talked for hours. About nothing. About everything. I told her about the time I almost dropped out of college sophomore year. She told me about how she once drove across 3 states with a flat tire because she didn't know how to change it and didn't want to ask for help. We laughed so much it hurt. At the end of the call, I almost said I miss you, but I didn't. Didn't need to. It was already there, thick in the air between us. The next time I saw her was 3 weeks later. Another Saturday. Another lie. Sarah was going out with her sister for the day. I told her I had errands to run. Picked up groceries just to keep the story straight. Then I drove to Anna's apartment. She opened the door and just looked at me. No smile this time. Just that same tired, kind expression. I stepped inside. She didn't say anything. Just reached for my hand and led me to the couch. We sat in silence for a long time. Then she whispered, Is this a mistake? I said, Probably. She nodded. But you're here. I'm here. I kissed her. Slow. Careful. Like we both knew we were crossing a line that didn't uncross. We didn't rush anything. We just stayed close. She leaned against me, and I felt her breathing even out. Mine didn't. I didn't stay the night. She didn't ask me to. When I left, she stood in the doorway and said, "Be careful." I nodded. Back home, I unloaded groceries I didn't remember buying. Sarah was on the couch, scrolling through her phone. She looked up and asked, "You get everything?" "Yeah," I said. "I got everything." And for the first time, I wasn't sure if that was a lie or not. After that day at Anna's, I told myself I wouldn't go back. I meant it too. I spent the next week trying to be more present at home. I did the dishes without being asked. Took Lily to her dentist appointment. Sat through one of Marcus's college prep Zoom meetings without zoning out completely. I even took Sarah out to dinner. We went to that place with the cloth napkins and the garlic bread she likes. She wore that blue sweater I used to love, and for a second, it felt almost normal. Then she asked, "You okay?" I said, "Yeah." She tilted her head a little. "You've just been different lately." I didn't know what to say. I wanted to tell her everything, but I didn't. I just said, "Work's been heavy." She nodded like she believed it. Maybe she did. Maybe she wanted to. That night, we had sex for the first time in months. It was careful, mechanical, like we were both following old steps to a dance we forgot the meaning of. Afterwards, she curled into me like nothing had changed, but everything had. I didn't sleep much. I didn't text Anna the next day, or the one after that. She didn't message me either. 3 days passed, then 4. On the 5th day, she sent a single word, "Hey." I stared at it for an hour before replying, "I miss you." She didn't say it back. She didn't have to. By the weekend, I was back at her place. No excuses this time. No pretending I was just out. I told Sarah I needed some space and was driving out to clear my head. She didn't argue. Didn't even ask where I was going. When I walked into Anna's apartment, she looked at me for a long time before saying, "You shouldn't be here." "I know," I said. Then I kissed her anyway. That night I stayed. I woke up around 3 a.m., the hum of the fridge the only sound in the room. She was asleep beside me, one arm across my chest like it belonged there. And for a moment I let myself believe it did. The next morning we didn't talk much. I made coffee. She sat on the couch wrapped in a blanket. She asked, "What are we doing?" I said, "I don't know." She looked at me and said, "I'm not going to be the thing that breaks your family." I didn't have the heart to tell her that something was already broken. Long before she showed up. When I got home, Sarah was in the kitchen, making pancakes. She looked up and said, "You sleep all right?" I lied. "Yeah, thanks." She nodded. "Glad you took some time. You seemed like you needed it." I wanted to scream. Tell her it wasn't just time. That I'd crossed a line I couldn't uncross. That I didn't know how to fix what was broken. That maybe I didn't want to fix it at all. But I didn't say any of that. I just sat down, ate the pancakes, smiled when Lily said something funny, nodded when Sarah talked about her sister's baby shower. Then I cleaned my plate, washed the pan, and went out to mow the lawn. Because that's what you do when your life is falling apart. You keep up appearances, until they don't hold anymore. It didn't unravel all at once. Just little things like threads tugging at the corners. I started sleeping in the guest room. Told Sarah I'd been snoring too loud. Said I didn't want to keep her up. She didn't argue. Just said, "That's thoughtful." And left an extra pillow for me. I kept going to Anna's every other weekend. Made up reasons for the distance. Field checks. Vendor visits. Regional meetings. She stopped asking questions. Or maybe she just stopped caring. Couldn't tell. Anna never pushed. She never asked, "What are we?" Or "Where is this going?" She just opened the door when I knocked and let me in. We'd cook dinner together, drink wine, sit on the couch and watch old movies. She'd fall asleep on my shoulder, and for a few hours the guilt quieted down. But it never disappeared. One Sunday night, I got back late. Too late. Sarah was waiting in the living room. Light off. Just the blue glow from the TV screen. She didn't say anything at first. Then, "Was it worth it?" My mouth went dry. She didn't yell. Didn't cry. just looked at me with this empty sort of expression, like all the disappointment had hardened into something else. "How long?" she asked. I said nothing. "How long?" she asked again. I sat down, slow, like my knees forgot how to work. Then I whispered, "A few months." She looked down, pressed her lips together, nodded once. "Is it serious?" I didn't answer. That was enough. She stood up and walked past me toward the bedroom. I heard the door click shut. Then nothing. I slept on the couch that night. In the morning, she made breakfast like always. Eggs, toast, coffee. Lily sat at the table, headphones in, scrolling through her phone. Marcus had already left. I took a sip of coffee. Sarah didn't look up. Later that afternoon, she texted me, "We need to talk. Tonight." That evening, after the kids were in their rooms, we sat across from each other at the dining table. She said, "I want you to move out." I nodded. "Okay. I'll tell the kids we're taking a break. You can figure out the rest later." "Okay." She didn't ask where I'd go. She didn't ask if I loved Anna. She didn't ask if I was sorry. She didn't ask anything at all. I packed a bag that night. Just a few clothes, a toothbrush, my charger. I didn't say goodbye to the kids. I just left. Anna opened the door in a sweatshirt and socks. No makeup. She looked at the bag in my hand and said, "So this is happening." I nodded. She didn't smile, just stepped aside to let me in. I dropped the bag in the corner and sat on the couch, suddenly exhausted. She sat next to me, leaned her head on my shoulder, and whispered, "I don't know if this is a beginning or an ending." I didn't either, but I knew there was no going back. Not anymore. Moving in with Anna wasn't what I thought it would be. I'd pictured some version of relief. Breathing easier. Starting fresh. Something like that. But what I got was cardboard boxes in the corner of her apartment and silence that settled between us after the first week. She was kind. She made room. Gave me a dresser drawer, cleared off a section of the bathroom shelf. Bought my brand of cereal. Said, "Make yourself at home," even though it wasn't mine. But it never really felt like I belonged there. Not completely. The first weekend I texted Marcus. Just said, "Hey, hope school's going all right. I'm here if you need anything." No reply. Lily never responded to my last few messages at all. Sarah kept her word, told the kids we were taking a break. But that only bought time, not trust. The next time I saw Sarah was 2 weeks later in a lawyer's office. We sat on opposite sides of the table. She wore a gray blazer. Her hands were folded in her lap. She looked tired but calm. The lawyer explained the basics, assets, custody, support. Sarah didn't ask for much. Just the house, the car, primary custody. I didn't argue. I nodded along. Signed where they pointed. At the end, the lawyer said, "Any questions?" Sarah said no. I said no. We left through different doors. That night, I came home to Anna slicing vegetables in the kitchen. She looked up and said, "How'd it go?" "It's happening," I said. She nodded. I figured. She handed me a glass of wine. We sat on the couch. Ate dinner on our laps. She didn't ask what Sarah said. I didn't offer. Instead, she said, "You can stay as long as you need." I looked at her and said, "Do you want me here?" She didn't answer right away. Finally, she said, "I want you to want to be here." That's different. The next morning, I woke up before her. Sat at the kitchen table with a mug of coffee and stared out the window. My phone buzzed, an email from the school about Lily's upcoming choir concert. I'd forgotten all about it. I forwarded it to Sarah. Just wrote, "Please tell her I'd still like to come." No response. I didn't go. At work, I was quieter than usual. People noticed. My manager asked if I was all right. I said I was going through some personal stuff. He nodded like he understood. I started working later. Coming home after 9. Anna waited up the first few times. Then she stopped. One night, she was already in bed when I walked in. I stood in the doorway, not sure what to say. She looked at me and asked, "Are you in this?" I didn't know how to answer. She said, "It's okay if you're not. I just need to know what this is." I sat on the edge of the bed and said, "I don't even know who I am right now." She didn't say anything back. We lay in the dark, inches apart but miles away. The next morning, she made coffee and left a note. "Back late? Take care of yourself." I folded it up and put it in my pocket. Carried it around all day like a weight I'd chosen. Later that week, the divorce papers were finalized. I didn't tell anyone. I just went back to work. Ate dinner in silence. Slept beside someone who used to make me feel awake. Everything felt like it was moving, but I was standing still. And part of me started to wonder if I'd made the wrong choice, or if I'd ever really made one at all. By the time summer rolled around, most of my stuff was still in boxes. I told myself it was temporary, that I'd unpack when things felt more settled. But the truth was, I didn't know what settled looked like anymore. I was living in a place that wasn't mine, next to someone I used to feel everything with, now just trying to feel anything. Anna didn't push. She gave me space. But space turns into distance when no one closes the gap. One night, I came home late again. She was on the couch with a glass of wine, a blanket over her legs, reading. She didn't look up. I sat down next to her and said, "I saw Lily today. At the store." Anna lowered her book. "Did she say anything?" I shook my head. "She saw me, then walked away." She just nodded. I said, "I don't know how to fix it." She said, "You might not be able to." We sat there in silence, the kind that used to feel comfortable. Now it just felt like waiting for someone to say what we were both avoiding. Later, in bed, she rolled over and whispered, "You still feel married." I said, "I'm not." She said, "Doesn't feel that way." That hit harder than anything Sarah ever said. Because it was true. I still checked in with Sarah about the kids. Still watched old videos of Lily playing piano, of Marcus laughing at some dumb inside joke. Still left my wedding ring in the drawer, unable to throw it away. I still remembered Sarah's laugh, even if I hadn't heard it in months. I still knew her grocery list by heart. I still felt tethered to a life I'd already burned down. The next morning, I told Anna I was going to take a few days and clear my head. She didn't ask where I'd go. She just said, "Okay." I packed a bag and checked into a motel on the edge of town. Nothing fancy, just a room with a bed, a chair, and a lamp that buzzed when it got too quiet. I stayed there for 4 days. Didn't talk to anyone. Didn't answer texts. Just sat with myself and tried to figure out what the hell I was doing. On the third night, I looked at my reflection in the bathroom mirror and said out loud, "What now?" No answer. Just the hum of the AC unit and the faint sound of a car passing on the highway. I called Sarah. Went straight to voicemail. I didn't leave a message. I thought about calling Anna, but I didn't. I wasn't ready for her voice. I wasn't ready for anyone's. When I finally went back to the apartment, Anna was in the kitchen. She didn't look surprised. She said, "You find what you were looking for?" I said, "No." She nodded. "Didn't think so." I dropped my bag by the door and sat down at the table. She poured me coffee without asking, just like she always used to. And for a moment, it felt like we were back at the beginning. But we weren't. We were somewhere else entirely now. Somewhere in between. Not broken. Not whole. Just waiting. Tea ended without a fight. No yelling. No slammed doors. Just a long silence that turned into a quiet goodbye. Anna and I sat on the couch one Sunday morning, coffee in hand, her legs pulled under her. She looked at me like she'd been rehearsing the words all night. "I don't think this is working," she said. I nodded. She waited, maybe hoping I'd say something different. But I didn't, because I knew she was right. She said, "You came to me like someone trying to escape a burning house. But you never wanted to build another one." I stared at the coffee table. "I didn't know how." "I know," she said, "and I don't blame you. But I can't live in the waiting room anymore." We didn't cry. She offered to help me pack. I told her I'd take care of it. By the next evening, I had everything I owned in 2 suitcases and a cardboard box. I booked a short-term rental near the warehouse where I worked. Month-to-month lease. Sparse. Neutral. Forgettable. The first night there, I laid on the mattress with no frame, staring at the ceiling, listening to traffic hum through the thin window glass. I felt nothing. Not guilt. Not regret. Not freedom. Just empty. A week passed. Then another. I started jogging every morning. At first just around the block, then a couple miles. The routine kept me from going numb. Something to move my body so I wouldn't just sit in silence. At work, nobody asked questions anymore. They'd stopped months ago. I showed up, did the job, went home. My manager offered me a transfer, bigger region, more travel. I said yes without even thinking. Wichita, Tulsa, Omaha. Hotels, airports, rental cars. I knew the front desk clerks by name. Knew which vending machines were always broken. My phone stopped ringing except for reminders and spam. Sarah filed the final paperwork without fanfare. Sent me a text when it was official. It's done. That was it. I tried messaging Marcus. No response. Tried Lily too. Nothing. Some nights I'd scroll through old photos until I couldn't take it. Then I'd delete the app and reinstall it 2 days later, hoping maybe someone would reach out. They didn't. I saw Anna once more by accident. At a bookstore. She was with someone else. A guy I didn't recognize, but he made her laugh. Not polite laughter either. The real kind. She didn't see me. I left without saying anything. That night I walked 5 miles without meaning to. Just didn't want to go home. It's been a year now. I still send texts to the kids. Holiday messages. Updates about work. Things I think they might care about. Most of them go unanswered. But I keep sending them. Because that's all I know how to do now. Keep showing up. Keep trying. Not because I think it'll fix anything. But because trying is the only thing I have left. And that's where it ends. No redemption arc. No reunion. Just me. In a small apartment. With quiet mornings and long evenings. Living with the truth of what I broke. And what I couldn't hold on to. Not because I didn't love them. But because I didn't know how to stay.